The signal that changed everything. It began on an ordinary night. The sky above Earth was quiet, stars shining in the endless black. Most people slept peacefully, never knowing that something far beyond their world had already turned its eyes toward them. Inside a cold observatory on a mountain, a young scientist named Dr. Marcus Hale stared at a monitor. His coffee was cold and his eyes burned from hours without rest. He was listening to deep space like he had done many nights before. The universe often whispered static, sometimes radio noise, sometimes the faint echo of dying stars. But tonight was different. A sharp tone cut through the speakers. A pattern followed, clean and impossible to ignore. Marcus froze, his pen falling from his hand. He leaned closer. The sound repeated again and again, steady like a heartbeat. He pressed a button to record. His heart pounded as he checked the data. "This is no star," he whispered. Far away in another city, military satellites picked up the same signal. At first they thought it was a malfunction, but when dozens of observatories confirmed it, panic grew behind closed doors. The signal was not random. It was not natural. It was alive. World leaders were alerted before dawn. Secret meetings took place in underground rooms far from public eyes. Around polished tables, men and women in suits argued with raised voices. Some called it a message. Some called it a trap. Others said it could be the first contact with intelligent life. But all agreed on one thing. Humanity had never faced something like this. The signal repeated every 6 hours. Each time it grew sharper, as if whoever was sending it wanted to make sure no one could ignore it. Scientists worked day and night searching for meaning. Mathematicians noticed prime numbers hidden in the sound. Linguists found rhythm, like speech without words. It was not only communication, it was instruction. Then after 7 days the signal changed. The tone dropped low, vibrating like thunder through the speakers. On screens across the world a stream of numbers appeared. Coordinates. At first the scientists thought it was a location inside the Milky Way, but soon they realized the truth. The coordinates pointed to a specific place in space, thousands of light years away, but reachable with humanity's newest experimental engines. Silence fell in the room when the discovery was made. "They want us to come." One scientist said. "Or they want to lure us," another answered. No one could be sure. The debate grew louder across nations. Should they answer the call? Should they build a ship and travel into the unknown? Some feared a trap. Others believed it was the greatest chance in human history. For centuries, mankind had looked at the stars and asked if they were alone. Now finally they had an answer. But not all answers brought comfort. One night, Dr. Hale received a visit from 2 men in black suits. They asked no questions. They only placed a folder on his desk. Inside were pages of classified reports, each older than him. The reports told of strange signals in the past, stretching back 100 years. Some signals were ignored, some were silenced by governments, but none were ever this strong. Many of those signals had vanished after a short time, leaving no trace. And in those same years, strange disappearances had been recorded. Entire research stations gone missing. Small colonies lost without reason. At the end of the folder was a warning written in faded ink. "The Great Three will test them. Those who fail will not rise again." Dr. Hale stared at the words until his hands trembled. Who were the Great Three? Why had no one spoken of them? The answer never came. Within weeks, the United Nations announced the creation of Project Odyssey. A massive ship would be built, using the latest technology from across the world. Its mission to travel to the coordinates to meet whoever or whatever was waiting. News leaked slowly to the public. At first, people thought it was rumor. But as construction of the ship began, hope and fear spread through every home. Some prayed the visitors would be saviors. Others whispered they would be destroyers. Wars paused, at least for a short time, as nations worked together. In hidden rooms, though, generals sharpened their plans. Secret weapons were loaded into the Odyssey just in case. On the night before the ship's launch, Dr. Hale stood on the launch platform, staring at the giant vessel. Lights glowed across its metallic body like a new star resting on Earth. The air smelled of oil and burning fuel. Workers moved like ants below. He felt both proud and terrified. He remembered the words in the old folder. "The Great Three will test them." Above him, the stars seemed colder than ever before. The world waited, holding its breath. Humanity had taken its first step into the unknown. The signal had changed everything. Journey into the unknown, the day of the launch arrived. Millions gathered near screens across Earth, waiting to see humanity's boldest step into the galaxy. The ship named Odyssey stood like a giant blade on the launch platform, its silver body shining under floodlights. It was not only a ship, it was a symbol. Every nation had given something to build it: steel, engines, weapons, dreams. Inside, the crew prepared in silence. Some were soldiers, their eyes cold and sharp. Some were scientists, clutching data tablets filled with theories and hope. A few were diplomats chosen to speak for Earth if words could save them. Each of them carried the weight of billions of lives. The captain of the Odyssey, Elena Ward, stood before her crew. She was tall, her face marked by years of command. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with fire. "We go not for ourselves," she said. "We go for all of humanity. We do not know what waits for us, but we will face it together, and whatever test they bring, we will endure." Her words filled the silent chamber like a steady drumbeat. The crew saluted. When the countdown ended, the earth shook as fire roared beneath the Odyssey. Clouds split apart as the ship rose into the sky, breaking free from gravity. People below cheered, cried, prayed. The journey had begun. Days turned into weeks. The Odyssey crossed the solar system, passing Mars, then the cold rings of Saturn. Beyond Neptune, space turned darker, colder. The crew watched as stars grew sharper through the windows, endless and eternal. But something strange followed them. On the 10th day, the ship's sensors picked up faint distortions. A whispering hum spread through the comm systems, too low to be natural. At night, some crew members swore they heard voices in their sleep. Not words, but murmurs, like thousands speaking at once. Dr. Marcus Hale studied the signals. "They are watching us," he muttered. Even before we arrive, the crew grew uneasy. Food tasted dull, air felt heavy. Dreams turned into nightmares of burning skies and drowning oceans. A soldier woke screaming, claiming he saw the faces of his dead family floating outside the window. Still, the Odyssey moved forward. On the 22nd day, the ship left known space. The stars shifted, forming strange patterns that no map could explain. The coordinates from the signal pulled them onward like a chain. Then the void opened and 3 shadows appeared. At first, the crew thought they were asteroids. But as they drew closer, the shadows became shapes. Ships so massive they dwarfed the Odyssey. One ship shone with pure white light, like a burning sun carved into form. Another looked as if it was made from endless stone, its surface cracked and glowing like molten rock. The last was fluid and alive, a vessel of water that rippled and reshaped itself as if the ocean itself had taken flight. The Great Three had arrived. The Odyssey drifted to a stop. Silence filled the cabin. Every crew member stared at the view, their breaths shallow. The alien ships did not move, but their presence pressed against human minds like invisible weight. "Do we hail them?" asked a diplomat, his voice breaking. Captain Ward shook her head slowly. "We wait." For hours, nothing happened. The Odyssey floated between giants like an insect surrounded by gods. No lights blinked, no weapons fired. Only silence. Then, without warning, every screen on the Odyssey lit up. Symbols appeared, shifting, glowing, rearranging into patterns. They were not words, not numbers, but something alive. Each symbol pulsed like a heartbeat. The crew tried to decode them, but before they could, the lights dimmed and each human felt something touch their mind. It was not sound. It was thought. Images flooded their heads, cities crumbling, seas drying, planets burning. Then flashes of other worlds, alien species kneeling, broken, erased. The message was clear. The Great Three had tested others before. Few had survived. One voice entered their minds, deep and cold. "You have come. Now prove you deserve to stay." The crew shivered, some wept. Others clenched their fists. Dr. Hale whispered, "This is it. The test begins." In the command center, Captain Ward forced herself to stand tall. The weight pressing against her thoughts felt like chains, but she did not break. She turned to her crew. "They want us afraid," she said. "They want us weak. But we are human. We do not bow. We do not surrender." Her words steadied them, though their hands still shook. The 3 alien ships shifted slightly, surrounding the Odyssey in a slow, deliberate dance. Light poured from the vessel of fire. Shadows rolled from the vessel of stone and waves shimmered from the vessel of water. The Odyssey was trapped. There was no escape. And somewhere deep in their minds, the crew felt the same thought from all 3 beings. The trial begins. The Great Three appear. The Odyssey floated in silence, trapped between the three colossal vessels. No one on board moved. No one even breathed too loud. The crew knew they were in the presence of something far older, far greater than themselves. Then the light ship moved. It opened like a flower of fire. From its burning body stepped a figure made of pure radiance. It had no face, no skin, only shape and glow. Its body pulsed like a star's heartbeat, each wave of light passing through the Odyssey and rattling the bones of every human inside. The crew shielded their eyes, but they could not look away. A second figure emerged from the stone vessel. It was a giant made of rock and ash, its body cracked with glowing rivers of magma. When it shifted, the sound was like mountains grinding together. Its eyes burned white, heavy and ancient, as if it had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. Then came the last. From the liquid ship poured a form like flowing water, tall and shifting. Sometimes it looked like a woman, sometimes like a beast, sometimes like a wave about to crash. Its voice was not heard but felt, like the rush of a tide pulling at the soul. The Great Three stood together, their presence filling the void. Inside the Odyssey, the crew clung to their stations. Their ears buzzed with pressure, their vision blurred. Then one by one voices entered their minds. Not sound, not speech, but thought pressed like iron against the brain. You are the new ones. You have come to us. Now we will see. The words did not come from mouths. They came from everywhere at once. Dr. Hale pressed his hands to his temples, sweat dripping down his face. They are inside us, inside our thoughts. The diplomats tried to speak, but their voices cracked. Captain Ward forced her voice to stay calm. We are humanity. We came in peace. We came to learn. The beings did not answer with kindness. Instead, the crew felt visions tear into their minds. They saw planets stripped bare, oceans boiling away. They saw species kneeling before the Great Three, begging, failing. They saw others vanish into silence, erased from history. The message was clear. We are the judges. We decide who may remain among the stars. Fear gripped the Odyssey. Some crew wept quietly. Others stared in shock. One soldier reached for his weapon, but his hand froze as the water being's gaze fell on him. The weapon melted into nothing before his eyes. The tests began. The being of light stretched out a hand. Suddenly, the crew saw a vision of Earth burning, skies red, oceans black. The voice thundered, "Your world is fragile. Why should we let it live?" The stone giant slammed its foot and the Odyssey shook like a leaf in a storm. Your kind destroys itself with war. Why should we let you survive? The water shape circled, its form whispering across the hull. You hunger for more. You climb higher, never stopping. Why should we let you rise? Each question cut deeper than a blade. Each vision broke another piece of courage. The crew trembled, but Captain Ward stood tall. Her voice rose above the silence. Because we are human, she said. Because we endure. We fight storms, we fight fire, we fight ourselves. And still we live. We are not perfect, but we rise again and again. That is why we deserve to be here. The crew lifted their heads. Some nodded through tears. For a moment, the aliens were silent. Then the water being moved forward. It touched the hull, and suddenly the crew was pulled into another vision. They stood on Earth, but not their Earth. Cities of steel stretched to the horizon. Skies filled with towers of light. Humanity, older and stronger, walked among stars. But then the vision shattered. The cities burned, collapsing into dust. The skies turned black. Humanity screamed as it fell. The water being whispered, "This is one future. Can you stop it?" The vision ended. The crew gasped for air, their lungs burning. Back on the Odyssey, Dr. Hale whispered, "They are not only testing us, they are showing us choices." Captain Ward clenched her fists. She knew this was only the beginning. The Great Three drew closer, their shadows stretching over the human ship. Their voices rang again, deeper this time, heavier. Your trial continues. Show us who you are. Show us if you are worthy. The stone giant raised its hand and the Odyssey's lights flickered. Gravity shifted, pulling the crew from their seats. Alarms blared. Sparks burst across panels. One crew member screamed as he floated into the air, spinning helplessly. Another slammed into the ceiling, blood spraying across the cabin. The trial was no longer vision. It was real. Captain Ward shouted, "Hold your stations." "We do not break." The Odyssey spun wildly. trapped inside the grip of something far stronger than any storm. The crew fought to regain control, their voices mixed with alarms, with the rumble of ancient power, and above it all the voices of the Great Three thundered, "Endure, or vanish." Humanity's trial, the Odyssey, spun through the void, caught in the grip of the Great Three. Metal groaned. Sparks burst from broken panels. Crew members clung to their stations, their faces pale, their eyes wide with fear. The stone giant's hand squeezed the ship, bending its walls like soft clay. Gravity shifted again, pressing the crew into the floor until their ribs ached. The water beings swirled around them, flooding their minds with visions of drowning seas and collapsing lungs. The light being pulsed brighter, burning into their thoughts, forcing them to face their deepest fears. The trial had begun. A soldier named Ramirez floated helplessly when the gravity vanished again. His body slammed into a wall, blood spilling from his mouth. He screamed but kept fighting, pulling another crew member back to safety before losing consciousness. His sacrifice saved a life, but his own body grew still. The aliens spoke as one, their voices vibrating through every bone. "Sacrifice, you understand it?" The crew shivered. They had not expected the trial to draw blood so quickly. Then the ship fell into silence. For a moment it seemed over. But the light being reached forward again, and suddenly every human was dragged into another vision. They stood on a battlefield that was not real, yet it felt solid beneath their feet. Ash filled the air. Machines of war burned around them. Human soldiers pointed guns at each other. Brothers killing brothers. The crew could smell smoke, taste blood. "You destroy yourselves," the voice thundered. "Why should we trust you among the stars?" One diplomat dropped to his knees, trembling. "It is true. We are violent. We always fight." But Captain Ward's voice rose above the chaos. "We fight, yes. But we also protect. We defend what we love. Violence does not define us. Choice does." The vision cracked. The battlefield faded. The crew gasped, their lungs dragging in recycled air as if they had been choking. The water being swirled closer, its form breaking into hundreds of smaller shapes like droplets. Each droplet carried a memory, a temptation. A scientist reached out and saw infinite knowledge, a chance to understand the universe. Another crew member saw his lost family alive, smiling. Reaching for him, Dr. Hale felt his own temptation, the secret of the Great Three's power, offered freely if he would kneel. Sweat poured down his face. His hand shook, but he pulled back, whispering, "No, no. Knowledge without struggle means nothing." The temptations vanished like smoke. Restraint. The water being whispered in their minds. "You resist." The stone giant stepped forward. The ship shuddered. Its voice rumbled like an earthquake. "One test remains. Will you stand together or will you break?" The Odyssey systems collapsed. Power drained. Lights went dark. Alarms wailed as oxygen levels began to fall. The crew gasped for air, panic spreading fast. In the chaos, one crew member shouted, "We are going to die." "They are killing us!" Another tried to push past, clawing toward an escape pod. Captain Ward caught him by the collar. Her voice cut through the madness. "No one leaves. No one runs. We stay together. That is how we survive." Her words lit fire in their hearts. The crew steadied themselves, working as one. Soldiers helped engineers repair broken circuits. Scientists rerouted oxygen lines. Even those who had no skill carried tools, passing them quickly, refusing to give up. Dr. Hale shouted over the noise, "Work faster." They are watching every move. Minutes stretched like hours. Breath grew shorter. Faces turned pale, but hands kept moving. At last the lights flickered, oxygen flowed, and the Odyssey breathed again. The crew collapsed in exhaustion, but they were alive. The Great Three spoke again, their voices a storm. "You endure. You sacrifice. You resist. You unite. Few have done this before you." The beings drew closer, their enormous shapes circling the Odyssey like predators, or perhaps like judges preparing their final word. Captain Ward stood at the center of the bridge, her body trembling, but her eyes sharp. "We have shown you what we are. We are flawed. We are violent. We hunger for more. But we are also strong. We rise when we fall. We protect our own. We endure together. That is humanity." The light being flared, flooding the ship with blinding radiance. The crew shielded their eyes, waiting for destruction. But when the light faded, they were still alive. The stone giant lowered its massive hand. The grip around the ship loosened, the water being rippled, whispering like a tide. Your trial is not over, but you have not failed. A silence heavier than gravity fell across the crew. Dr. Hale whispered, "Not over?" The aliens gave no answer. Instead, their vessels began to shift, opening portals of swirling energy. The Odyssey drifted, pulled toward a light that shimmered with unknown colors. Captain Ward clenched her fists. She knew this was only the beginning. The first test was survival. The next would be something far worse. The Great Three spoke once more, their words echoing like thunder inside every human mind. You have passed the door. Now face the path. And with that, the Odyssey was swallowed by light. Legacy of the meeting, the Odyssey burst through the glowing portal, leaving the blackness of normal space behind. Light bent and twisted around them. The crew gripped their seats as the ship drifted into a place that was not like the galaxy they knew. Stars floated in strange colors, green, silver, deep crimson. Whole planets spun in silence, orbiting invisible centers. Rivers of light flowed across the void like oceans made of fire. The air inside the ship felt heavy, even though they were sealed in steel walls. It was a realm that did not belong to humans. This is their world, Dr. Hale whispered. His voice shook as he stared through the glass. This is where the Great Three live. The crew felt smaller than ever before. The three colossal ships followed them into the strange dimension. The light being burned like a sun above, the stone giant moved with crushing weight, the water being swirled like an endless tide. Their voices pressed once again into human minds. You have passed the first trial, but you are not yet free. Your kind may rise, or your kind may fall. Now you must listen. The visions returned. The crew was shown fragments of time like windows opening in the dark. They saw alien races from long ago bowing before the Great Three. Some begged for mercy. Some fought with fire and steel. Most were erased. Whole histories vanished in silence, swallowed by the judgment of the Great Three. Then another vision. Humanity's own future. They saw cities rising across the stars. They saw human ships moving faster than light, building colonies on far-off worlds. But then the vision darkened. Wars spread between those colonies. Civilizations broke. Humanity burned once again, just as it had before on Earth, the water being whispered into their souls. This is what waits for you, if you do not change. Captain Ward clenched her fists. We will not let it happen. The stone giant's eyes glowed brighter. Many have said the same. Few survived their own fire. Suddenly the visions ended and the Odyssey floated in silence. The crew waited, hearts pounding, for the final judgment. The Great Three stood before them, the light being flared. You are dangerous, the stone giant thundered. But you are strong. The water being rippled, its form calming. And you endure. For a long moment, nothing followed. Then the three voices joined as one. Humanity is allowed to live. Relief poured across the crew like rain on dry soil. Tears filled their eyes. Some cried out, others simply bowed their heads in silence. Ramirez's body, wrapped in cloth, floated in the chamber of the dead, and his sacrifice seemed to echo through the ship. But the Great Three were not finished. You have been judged. You may walk among the stars. But remember, your true trial has not yet begun. The crew stiffened. Dr. Hale's face turned pale. Not yet begun? The Great Three drew back, their ships moving away like drifting gods. The light being pulsed one final time, sending a wave of symbols across the Odyssey's screens. The stone giant raised its hand, leaving behind a mark burned into the hull, glowing faintly like a scar. The water being swirled once, whispering softly before fading, and then just as quickly as they had come, the Great Three vanished. Their ships dissolved into nothing. Their voices faded from human minds. The Odyssey drifted alone in the strange dimension. Slowly, the portal opened once more, pulling them back into the galaxy they knew. When the ship returned to normal space, the stars looked familiar again. Earth waited behind them, distant but alive. The crew sat in silence. They had faced something older than empires, older than time itself. And they had survived. But their victory was heavy. They had lost lives. They had been shown futures of fire. And they carried a warning that no one could ignore. Back on Earth, the Odyssey's return shook the world. Billions watched as the battered ship landed. Crowds filled the airfields, holding banners, crying out, waiting for news. When Captain Ward stepped off the platform, people cheered like never before. Humanity had gone into the dark and come back alive. The diplomats spoke carefully. They told the world about the Great Three, about the trial, the visions, the judgment. Some people wept in fear. Others shouted in pride. But one truth became clear. Earth was no longer alone. Dr. Hale stood before a council of leaders and gave his report. His hands shook as he spoke the final warning. They said our true trial has not yet begun. Whatever waits ahead, it will decide not just if we survive, but if we deserve to exist at all. That night, as the world celebrated, Captain Ward walked alone on the platform. She touched the side of the Odyssey where the stone giant's mark still glowed. It would never fade. Above her, the stars shone cold and endless. Somewhere out there, the Great Three were watching, and deep in her heart she knew the truth. Humanity had been spared this time, not welcomed. The Great Three had not promised peace. They had given only a chance. The real test was still waiting.